Today we're chatting with Emilija Gašić, the director of 78 Days. It's this year's Vanguard winning film, and Vanguard is our first and second feature film competition series that is now in its third year. We're very happy to have Emilija here with us in Vancouver, and it's been a great opportunity to take us behind the scenes of the film and just the involvement of all the child actors and the community in the Serbian countryside where they filmed, especially because the film really uses a unique style to address the subject. So yeah, tune in. Welcome to the VIFF podcast. This is your chance to get the inside track from the people behind the films you love and the films you're yet to discover. This podcast was recorded on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Recorded during the 43rd edition of the Vancouver International Film Festival, these conversations take us behind the scenes with the creators bringing their work to the big screen. I'm Sonja Baksa, and today I'll be in conversation with Emilija Gašić, the director of 78 Days. Welcome, Emilija.
Hi, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us in Vancouver.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's our great pleasure. I just want to set this up also by saying that the Vanguard section is one of our newer sections at the Film Festival, and it's a showcase of emerging filmmakers from all over the world and films that are pushing the boundaries of cinema and its vocabulary in a sense. And we're also very happy to reveal that Emilija's film 78 Days just won the Vanguard Award for this year. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's great.
You had your first screening last night, and it was really met warmly by the audience. There were a lot of Serbian community members present, and I thought it went well. Can you tell us a little bit about your film, what it's about, just for anyone listening that's not aware?
So the film is called 78 Days, and it's about three sisters that are filming each other during the course of the NATO bombing of Yugoslavia in 1999. Their father is mobilized, and they are sort of left with their mom, and they're not going to school, or everything kind of stopped, and they have this camera, essentially, so they're recording their daily lives. And there's a couple of I want to say children, a boy and a girl, who come into their neighborhood and kind of make things a little more complicated, I want to say. So it's a coming of age, but found footage film.
And one of the specific things about the film is the way it was shot. It's kind of flirting with docufiction in a way. So can you tell us a little bit how you decided to approach it that way, the story?
So the whole film is shot on high-8 tapes, and these are like, this is a format that was pretty, I want to say, predominant in the 90s. It's a format that democratized usage of cameras, I want to say, in the household. So after VHS and before mini DV, there was the high-8, and it's like the first small cameras, first small tape, essentially. And coincidentally, my childhood was shot on this format, and I think because I've seen it multiple times, I always wondered, they're like, why is it so cinematic, at least to me? And I think in the back of my brain I had this idea to use it to some extent in a film, but I wasn't sure how. And I think 10 years had to pass for me to realize, okay, I think I want to make a film that feels like you found a tape, in this case 25 years later, that's some sort of like a time capsule. And you're watching your memories unfold in front of you that you've forgotten. Because this is exactly what happened to me. Like during COVID, I was in New York, and I remember reaching for these tapes again. I have them all digitized on CDs, and I haven't seen all of them. Like I always knew there's something there that I haven't looked, and the discovery was very, exhilarating. It's almost like you found a treasure. I found this tape that had the footage from this period of time, and I was on these videos. Like my family shot it, my sisters did, and I had no memory of the videos that were on tape. And I remember thinking, okay, I think this is what I want to do. I want to pick this period in this way.
Right.
So it's kind of a eureka moment for me, I want to say.
So how much of it is based on these memories, these videos that you discovered, and how much did you add just fictionalized?
I mean, it started, of course, with my experience, but, you know, as every writer, director, you dramatize things a lot. Yeah. So I want to say that a lot of it was dramatized, of course. It's not an autobiographical film, but it definitely was inspired by my childhood. And there's like a few scenes, I think, that ended up in the film that are kind of direct inspiration, not a copy, I want to say, because they're all different when you direct them, and you just can't copy it in real life. It's just difficult, but they're definitely inspired by what I've seen on my tapes. But yeah, in the early stages, I want to mention this, in the early stages of writing the screenplay, I created this questionnaire online, like on a Google form, and I shared that on Facebook, and people were really generous with sharing their experiences from the period. It was all anonymous, and it was known that it was, you know, for a film research. So people knew exactly from the beginning that I will be using this to some extent as an inspiration. Amazing. And I got like over 200 responses. Wow. Because I think my generation, we didn't have a film about this, essentially. And the films that we do have, there's very little of them, actually. There's maybe 5, I want to say. Don't hold me to this word, but there's like only a few in the last 25 years, which is not a lot. And you know, they're all made from different generations by men, like a very different perspective. And I just really felt like my generation needs a film, like, you know, for this. And I wanted to make it because it definitely, you know, marked my childhood. So it just felt natural to write about it. Right. And I think big part of this, why it works, like it's this family of secluded in a rural area while the war is somewhere in the background. It does penetrate the bubble at some point, but it basically gives them space, and then the heart of it are those 3 sisters. And did you draw from your own life a little bit there? I mean, I know the dynamics so well because I do have 2 sisters, and I thought, you know, I thought I would be crazy not to use this knowledge because I haven't seen, like, again, I haven't seen many films from this area, specifically Serbia, about sisters. And I just felt like I would like to make something, you know, and it just felt really natural with the story and it made sense. So I've definitely used it, but you know, like I said, it's not autobiographical, but it definitely, I drew inspiration from my own relationships with my sisters. Like, I know this dynamic, like I said, really well. Because it's very authentic. It's not all rosy, you know. Some of these interactions can be really, you know, sisters can be tough on each other. So that's like this film really, really goes there in a way that I was like, whoa, that is it feels. You can feel the hurt and then the love. It's just all the complex emotions that come with it, and especially under those circumstances when very intense circumstances. Yeah. And then you also created space for some crushes. You know, can you tell us a little bit how it was on set with like, you know, you had a lot of hormones there, like teenage hormones. How was it? It was really nice. I want to say, I feel like we all felt like a big family. I mean, it's a very small set actually, so we felt like we were a family essentially, because the whole crew and cast, they were all in one apartment complex, because we shot this in my grandparents' house. It's like the first time I worked, and I slept in my house next door. So I was kind of really privileged to just walk to set like in 3 minutes and have breakfast with my parents before I go to work, which really felt, you know, I hope I get that luxury one more time at least. But also like the proximity of the location helped, I think, making the bonds between the girls, essentially, because they were there and we could just always hop in and be there together. And, you know, I feel like we all had a crush at each other, kind of, because I was really, I remember just seeing them on camera, and I was constantly falling in love with the shots and what they were doing and how it just came natural to them after, of course, all the prep that we've done, essentially. And can you tell us a little bit about that, and also how you found those actors, because they're all
incredible.
So yeah, I worked with the casting director Kristina Vuletic before on my short film, and in the meantime, she helped me find a girl for my short film that I did actually in the same house that I shot in 2017, and also Goran Bogdan, the actor who plays the father, also played the father then, and she in the meantime set up a school for children for acting in this place in my hometown where we shot it. So it was kind of a no-brainer that I wanted to work with her school, Mali Prince, and we essentially, she was kind of my right hand because I was in New York and she was in Vrnjačka Banja and in Serbia, right? So she would do these casting calls and we would gather a lot of pictures at first. And the whole process, I want to say, went up for like over a year because I was looking for specific accent, I want to say, because I was shooting in this area and I really wanted them to speak, if possible. I was open to finding other girls, of course, from different areas, but if possible, I would love to make it about this specific area between Vrnjačka Banja and Kraljevo, just because I haven't seen, again, films done here. And we really took our time to find them. So at first it was online calls, casting calls, and then seeing them in person, and then doing all these exercises, sort of testing them, because a lot of these kids, they don't really have access to acting schools. Some do, but it's like a very different, it's not for film, it's specifically for like amateur theaters, and it's like a very different vibe. So essentially it took us some time to gather everyone. I want to say, like, we went from one town to another, and then once I came in, it really intensified the search. So I wanted to make sure we cover all the places around it, so we just know, okay, we've done our homework. And I remember seeing the three girls, Milica, Tamara, and Victoria, for the first time. Like, we had like multiple girls, and we were trying to connect them and test chemistry. And I was filming at the time, and Kristina was sort of directing them, so I could see them essentially. And I remember just feeling something when the three of them were together, and their exercise ended. So I asked them to do something else again. We gave them like a different task, and it was always something funny about either sisters fighting or whatnot. And they really got it almost immediately. So I took some time then to make that decision. I think 3 months before the shoot, I finally made the call that it's the three of them. But I felt like I've seen everything, everyone, and that was like the right decision.
Right.
Yeah.
You felt ready to make the choice.
Yeah.
It sounds like it. It's good when you're afforded that time to.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But also, it's a low budget film, so I felt like if I'm doing this, let's do it right. We don't have, so much money and so much time, essentially. So if we're waiting for, I don't know, funding or whatnot, let's just do this, essentially. So that was kind of how we used the time.
Right.
Yeah.
But also it's the approach required them to kind of do the opposite of acting, right? Like it required them to just kind of be themselves, and you to film them. Was there, did they struggle to comprehend that, or was it actually easier for them to do that?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, the idea was always to use their personalities as well, because it's a very specific concept, and I think that could have been, that was the advantage. Sort of, if we find specific people that have something that, the script was looking for, essentially, like that was the idea. And I think all three of them had something that we can draw upon. And the idea was always to be, to believe that they're sisters, that they live in this house, and to make it as authentic for them, the experience for them as possible. And I think that came in also with the usage of the camera and very little lighting equipment, because I just didn't want them to, trip on cables or always think about whether they can walk in this direction or that direction because there's like a person there or a camera or, not a camera, I guess the lighting, because lighting is very heavy and big usually. So we decided, my DP Ines Goland and I decided to have all the lighting mostly outside of the house and just practicals really. And if we really need something to emphasize, I guess, in the space, so it just doesn't obstruct them. So we can always shoot 360 at any time. Really, that was the that was the idea.
Yeah, because in the film they are filming themselves. So how did
Yes,
you go about
sometimes.
the logistics of that? Did you use any of the footage that they filmed?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So my DP would shoot the first few takes always, I think, unless it was like a very specific scene that was very intimate and required them just to be alone. So if anything, we were just trying to remove ourselves so we don't, obstruct the magic from happening. So, I think the system worked. We did plan everything.
Great.
So, like, I'm a firm believer, I said that last night at the Q&A, that you should prepare for everything, and then once you're there, you should be flexible and just observe what is happening so you can jump in and take that for the film, essentially. So not something you don't miss something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And was everything scripted, or did you allow for some improvisation?
I think the structure and the themes of the scenes are pretty much, there. And then we sort of built upon that.
Okay.
I want to say I'm not very good at math, but I think it's like 20%, Somebody asked me at a Q&A at some point, how much percentage-wise, do you know how it's improvised? And I thought about it and I wondered, maybe it's 20% per scene, that there is something that we built upon.
Okay.
But that's also, I don't know if every scene has that. And then there are some scenes that I discovered during the shoot. I was very open to hearing the ideas of the girls, and sometimes I would just see them do something. I was like, okay, let's do that and put that in the film, and I would just film it, because I think not having the heavy gear really gave us a lot of extra time, if that makes sense. So we didn't, usually you wait on sets a lot, and I'm sure we had a lot of downtime here too to prepare things, but we didn't wait for the lighting or something. I think that really helped us have even more time than we needed. I want to say there was like one day when we had like a couple of hours, we could just do whatever we wanted.
Right.
It was not schedule. Yeah. So,
but you said you had a pretty tight schedule and overall, like 20 days?
Yeah, it was 20 days. It was not 12-hour day shoot. It was a 10-hour day, and with 1 hour lunch, which I really wanted to make it as comfortable. The producers and I, we thought about it, and the most comfortable we can make it, essentially, because it's a small crew, it's a low budget film, and it's just better for everyone if we could enjoy ourselves, and that's how trust is gained, I think, and built. And that's how you, I guess, create magic. And I'm so happy to say now I'm watching all these, I have some BTS videos I still haven't used. But my husband, actually, who was the DAT and the BTS photographer and videographer, Alex Weisky, he went around and interviewed everyone. And now that I've seen these videos, it was really so heartwarming to see crew members talking about, like my production designer, Maya Juricic, and her sister, who also worked on in her department. They were talking about, oh, this was such a great shoot. Everybody feels like a family. It was so nice to be with everyone, just away from Belgrade in a small town, but just like spending time with really nice people and enjoying it. Yeah.
Well, now that you mentioned away from Belgrade, like one thing that personally stood out for me, you shot, like it's beautiful. It was summer. It's very lush. It's very grassy.
Yeah.
One thing that occurred to me, there must have been bugs around, ticks. did you take any precautions about that? Was that a concern?
We shot it in June of 2022, and June is like it is summer technically, but it's like a very rainy month also in my town specifically, and that was actually the only thing that. One of the things that I really think threatened our schedule was the rain, and then we had to sort of figure out when are we going in and when are we going outside doing the exteriors versus interiors. But yes, there was a lot of ticks in that season, and I think we all had to spray a lot with the bug spray. Yeah. I personally didn't get any ticks, but I've heard of crew members getting them, unfortunately. Right. But it's just like you really have to be adamant with the spray. I just remember sitting once in the grass I don't know if this is like podcast worthy, but
No, please
I was
tell us.
sitting in the grass, like looking at the wireless monitor, and I just like noticed with my peripheral eye sight that there's like a bug walking on my knee, and I looked. Oh, it was a tick, but I sprayed myself so much, and I carried that spray, so I just like removed it and put it in the grass. I thought it was funny. Like it didn't bite me. I ended up without any bites.
Well, it
because
was looking for a spot, actually.
Maybe it was just like, didn't like the smell of the spray.
That's true too. What is this? But I'm glad to hear that everyone was safe.
I think some people, including my husband, had to go to the health center just as a precaution. But yeah, everything ended up being fine. Yeah.
And I'm curious how the film played already like a bunch of festivals in Europe. This is, by the way, we had the North American premiere here, so we were very happy to be able to present this kind of like little universe, like Eastern European universe in this neck of the woods. How was the film received back home?
Really nicely, I have to say. I was, I was worried, of course, because it's like a very specific subject. It's very sensitive, and like I said, we don't really have that many movies told in this way too. It's like a very unusual film, if you want to put it that way. And I was nervous, but I think going to different festivals abroad, because it took us, since our world premiere in Rotterdam, I think we had like about 6 months of travel just in Europe, essentially away from outside of Serbia, right? And then our domestic premiere was in July, so almost 7 months really. So in July at the European Film Festival Palić, and I think enough buzz was created about the film, and there were so many good, positive reviews, and we won some awards, which was really nice. And I think that sort of helped the film to cross into the domestic premiere and then distribution. And I think one of my favorite screenings so far is in Palić, actually, because it was our first screening. It was like an outdoor cinema, and it was full of people. And, a lot of people who lived through this period and remember it. And I just remember, the jokes landed really well. People were laughing so much. And then, of course, when there were more emotional parts, you sort of feel the silence. And I think I will forever remember that. It was something special. Yeah.
And also it's great to see a film like that is not technically conventionally accessible as for the filmmaking style, to see it in theatrical release. And it's playing well across Serbia, right?
I think so. Yeah, we had our our Belgrade premiere, and then distribution was end of August and then September, and I think it went pretty well. I mean, there is a crisis of going to cinemas right now, so I don't know. This is like the part that I'm actually learning about right now. But essentially, it's hard to get people in cinemas. People who have been in cinemas, they really like it. So far, I've been reading the Letterboxd comments like crazy. Because it's just, I'm curious, what do people think, how they feel about it.
Absolutely.
It's important to be in tune with the audience, and I think who are we making these films for if not for the audience, really. That's just my thoughts.
And Letterboxd is where it's at these days. That's where you find the pulse. And also, this is your first feature film. It's insane. Congratulations. This is quite an achievement. Can you tell us a little bit about your path into filmmaking? Did you always know you wanted to direct?
Actually, yeah. Okay. It's a very unusual thing, I guess. I think when I was, I want to say when I was 8, I thought of maybe being a poet. That was very short-lived, because I realized, I'm not sure if I know how to write like this. That's really early, though, to make that decision. But I've seen Lord of the Rings after that. And my sister read the books to me, my eldest sister. Because I wasn't able to read it. I was like 6 or 7 years old. And then once I finally saw the movie at 8 or 9 or something, I was really blown away how it almost felt like Peter Jackson opened up my head and just put it on the screen there. And there's this scene with the ring wraiths coming for the first time and seeing the hobbits when they're like all fell down on that piece of road, and I want to say in the Shire. And then they're hiding under the tree bark, and then the Black Rider comes down and he's like sniffing out the bugs. And I just remember, that's how I thought of that. this is exactly how I imagined this. Like, how did this guy do this? Of course, I had no idea who Peter Jackson was or what a director is. And I think I just asked my mom, like, what is this profession? Who does this? Who are these people, like, to do this for a living? And she says, a film director, I guess. I have no idea. And then I think on my poor, internet, the dial-up internet, I was like trying to find film schools and sort of creating a low-key plan what to do. And I think I bought everything that you can find about Lord of the Rings, all the making of, the extended versions. And I remember just seeing, so he brought all his crew members to his hometown in Wellington and created this film. And I've sort of dreamt of doing the same, which is kind of what I did.
You did?
In my first feature. Which is, the feeling of, the crew member, the bond and the casts, right? The cast, just like for that short period of time is really something special, I think. Not just making the movie, but also the bonds you create with the people. It's like a very, very odd job, really.
Yeah. So that was your
my window,
your window. And then you went to school in Belgrade first?
Yes.
Okay.
After high school, I applied for the Academy of Arts, and that's where I studied film directing. And then after that, I did my master's at NYU Tisch School of the Arts, where I sort of focused more on camera. So I also shoot as a director of photography. It's kind of, I split my life that way because it just makes sense. When I write and direct, I'm still writing stories that are connected to the Balkans specifically because I have lived there, for 24 years, and I don't need to do so much research in order to write it because it's just something that comes naturally to me. And in New York, I really enjoy shooting for others because that's how I learn, I think, from other directors how they do their job, and that really helps. I think getting better at the craft.
And of course, and how does that kind of inform? Because you have that perspective, that school of thought that is also North American. But also I want to add, like, I think I'm also from the Balkans, so I understand, like, the effect of North American cinema is big there. It kind of enters our culture as well. So we all grow up with it.
This is how I learned English.
Exactly. This is how we were talking about that. So how does that, now that you've had that perspective, that school, when you go back home to shoot, do you see do you take some of that with you?
I mean, probably. It's probably hard to sort of separate that once you learn a certain way. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think making the set comfortable maybe is something that I've brought from. I want to think that, but I don't know. Like, I haven't worked on too many sets in Serbia, but from what I hear, it can be very hectic. But I'm sure these things are changing with everything everywhere. It's hopefully getting better, right? But essentially, we don't have labor laws still for children specifically on set. And I remember thinking, in the U.S. when I was doing my shorts and I had child actors, they can only be on set for 5 hours per day. And I thought our way of doing that in Serbia would be, okay, so we're not going to use them all day. We're going to have shorter days, but they can always, have a break or just be on set and play somewhere in a corner. They don't have to be always working, of course. So I just, so I don't know if that's something I specifically brought, but it's just like common sense to me that I wanted people to feel, like it was a good place to be. Like they didn't want to be anywhere else but there, essentially. So we can create something fun and magical, I guess. Yeah. But in terms of the school of thought, that's actually a good question. I think when I was in Belgrade, I was probably obsessed more with like Eastern European cinema, like every film student, I want to say, in Serbia, or I don't know if other places are like this, but Andrei Tarkovsky, of course. That's like the first intro of filmmaking. It just becomes part of you, and you think, oh, I can make something like that, and then realize, okay, no, I can't. There's only one Andrei Tarkovsky, I think. But you're really inspired by that. And then in the States, it's like a little different. Films are, I want to say independent film is maybe closer to the European vibe, I want to say, but there's also the Hollywood school of thought and all of that, and it feels like everything is clear all the time. That's just my impression of it. in the ending of when the film ends, you kind of know everything that happened. And I really appreciate, as a viewer, but also as a creator, I think now, that I like when the film asks more questions than it gives answers. So maybe that's the European, or maybe that's even further east. I think I grew up watching also like the South Korean or Japanese horror films, which are very, they don't always give all the answers. There's something in the mystery that I really appreciate. And I don't know who I spoke to about this actually, but that's something I miss, for example, when I'm in New York, because everything, I always say the US is like the land of YouTube tutorials, because everything is like really explained to the bits and there is no room for mystery. As much as that is good on the job, for example, there's no mystification. People won't, you don't know how to do that or something. They don't have this attitude. They will always explain to you and help you, which is great. But I always miss that little, like the Balkan superstitions, like the spirit, I guess the spiritual part of it. Sometimes I do miss, and I hope to bring that into the films.
I think this is also why, I want to bring it to the Vanguard section, is this is what we're looking for, because I think the blend of these cultural perspectives really creates space for some freshness in cinema. And I think this is where your film sits as well.
Great.
So that's great to see. And also on the subject of tutorials, I remember like I had an aunt that worked briefly for the UN, and I remember she had one of those military boots, and they came with instructions on how to lace them up. It's like,
wow.
so that's it just occurred to me.
No, there's something there. I mean, it's nice to have everything on the paper and clear, but sometimes it's nice to have a little mystery. It's okay.
Well, that's why you can kind of shape it the way you want it. Hopefully. Well, we have some other questions then here that we can maybe look into. Let's see. We have here. Stand it. Ooh. If you could live in any film universe, which one would it be, and what would be your role?
Oh, wow. Did not expect that. Can I pick two?
Sure, go for it.
I want to say Highlander.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, it's like my favorite ultimate 80s film, I want to say. And it would be cool to be Connor McLeod's assistant.
That's very specific.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Like there's this lady in the movie that sort of knows his life really well, and she's like helping him with the antiquities that he gets over the years and whatnot, and she leads this antiquity store. So I always thought that's like a cool, like I don't have to live forever, but I can sort of take a peek and enjoy the ride. Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe the second one, I want to say, Lord of the Rings. I have to. It's where it all started.
What role? Who would you be there?
I think the Rivendell elf. I like that,
Yeah, the elves are pretty cool.
Yeah, they're cool. They have cute robes.
Yeah, and
they ride horses.
Yeah, they ride and they're all beautiful. Yeah. And they live forever. Do they live forever?
They actually, well, if they stay in the Middle Earth, they sort of lose the life of the Eldar.
That's true. I
You're
forgot
interested
about
in
that.
the lore.
Yeah. And those cool ears as well, pointy ears.
There you go.
No, that's a nice choice. Well, let's leave it on that note. That's a lovely note.
Yeah,
and,
I think so.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for letting us pick your brain a little bit.
Thank you for picking up my film, actually. It's really nice to be here.
It was an easy pick. And we have another screening tomorrow, and I look forward to learning even more about the process. You have been listening to the VIFF podcast. Thanks to our community broadcast partner, TELUS StoryHive, for their support. If you're enjoying the show, please rate and review the podcast, and be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Visit viff.org to learn more about the Vancouver International Film Festival and see what's on at the VIFF Center year-round.